Hello, exactly one lady and gentlemen. It is currently Thursday, August 12th, 2010, which means it is one day after the birthday of my dear bro, Nicholas Alexander Plot, and this is Day 9 Daily number 165. Sorry, for any of you who are watching this on demand, something very funny happened, and only the live folks will know. It's a little hard for you. So today is a good day. Today's great because we're going to be taking a look at some Zerg vs. Zerg. We're going to talk about why it's not as boring as it seems and how, people kind of tend to mess this up and they end up, convincing themselves of things that aren't true. But we're going to look at that. But before this, I need to announce that, of course, I will be at the Green Forest Cafe Starcraft 2 LAN event challenge that will be live casted by myself and Diggity in Ventura, California this weekend. So that's Saturday and Sunday. And then I will be getting on a plane going to Germany to go to the Intel Extreme Masters Global Games Challenge Cologne. I'm really pumped for that. I'm going to be casting for 5 days during that time. Yeah! And then I come home, then I get on a plane, I go to Raleigh, because I'm also casting for MLG! Surprise! Because I've, been doing the MLG Showcase series for a very long time with the illustrious JP McDaniel. And of course, joining us out there, we have me, JP, HD, and Husky. So we got a whole little casting cadre. So with exactly 4 people, this allows us to play Ring Around the Rosie and Red Rover. So this is always good. So we can have that sort of good casting dynamic there. So definitely tune in to all of that, because I'm going to be everywhere. I wanted to share with you something that happened to me right when I got home. I actually got to my house maybe 30 minutes ago, because I dropped my friend off at the airport, and in my room was this! Now, I want to let you know, I didn't order this because I'm broke. I think in my bank account I have like $45. So my friends were like, you want to go to Chipotle? And I was like, do I want to have a good meal now? Or like 10 meals for this week? And I actually opted for the Chipotle, so I guess I'm not eating on Wednesday. But so I got this, so I was excited. I was like, yes, what's inside? And I open it up, and what do I find? There's more boxes. There's more boxes inside the box. What is this, fractal shipping? It's just like, yes, we provide the utmost service of boxes inside of boxes. And then you're just like, well, what's inside those boxes? And it's like, well, there's just more boxes in there, which was really annoying to me. And of course reminds me that I don't really like fractal things in general, especially not fractal animals. And I will admit that perhaps the most terrifying fractal animal is, of course, the fractal alligator, which is just like a regular alligator, except instead of arms and legs, it's just more alligators, man. Oh, if you saw one of those, that would be chilling. People would see you the next day. It's like, is everything okay? You look like you saw a ghost. No, I saw a fractal alligator. So let's go ahead and jump into the game. That was good. That was rehearsed. So we're going to go into here. Oh, it's a Zerg vs. Zerg between 2 superhero Zerg players. We have Chef, a.k.a. Chosen from the Brood War, against Slush, a.k.a. Slush from the Brood War. Now, Zerg vs. Zerg is one of these funky matchups where you will hear people say things like, it's dumb, it's just Banelings. It's just Zergling Baneling. And it's like, well, what do you do? Oh, Zergling Baneling. And you heard me talk a lot last 2 days about subtlety. Yeah, that would be me. I would have the sound off. Time for everyone to start keeping tally of the good old Day 9 screw-ups. But yes, of course. You heard me talking a lot about, let's look at subtleties, let's look at the little timings, the way to get slight edges in certain situations. And that can all sound great on paper, and I'm sure there's a lot of you gold-level players out there who are like, righto, yes sir, Day 9, that sounds great. And then you try to sit down and do it and go, still lost, because that's too abstract. So we're actually going to look at some explicit examples. These games, I believe, were the finals of the Gosu Coaching Weekly. That might actually not be true. I'm still going to give them credit because I like the Gosu Coaching people, so I'll just go ahead and say that. So, I just want to briefly, before anything happens, because obviously something cool is about to happen, I just want to say that a little bit about the Zergling Baneling thing, for any of you people who are just like, I'm playing Terran because people call that race imbalanced, and I want to be imbalanced too. Well, in Zerg vs. Zerg, there's this weird thing where you get a whole bunch of Zerglings at the start, and if one of you doesn't get Zerglings, for instance, if you try to get Roaches, there's a little window where you don't quite have that many Roaches. And if you try to move outside your base, you can get completely overrun by Zerglings. So what people have started to do is just, they both go Zerglings. And then one day someone said, well, why don't I also get some Banelings, because those are unbelievable against Zerglings. And then people just started going mass Zergling Baneling against each other. And this ended up in some really silly games, you know, where you'd have 40 Zerglings and 4 Banelings, and he'd have 5 Banelings, and his 5 Banelings would kill all 40 of your Zerglings, and then he'd run in with his Zerglings, and somehow 6 would stay alive and kill 10 drones, and that was game, you know, and people would get frustrated, and for a long time, ZvZ's literally, or a long time, it was like a month or so, ZvZ was literally, okay, I get Zerglings and I get Banelings, and keep doing that. Period. And that's kind of ugh. Players are fortunately better, so we're going to have a chance to look at that. But of course, if you hear, oh, people are going Zergling Baneling, you're going to say, oh, well, what's the best way to do it? And you're going to try to think of one way that is the optimal, but they're in fact different styles, and they all lead to different advantages. So Slush we see is doing pool on 10, then he's making a drone, and he's going gas on 10. I just want to say that he is going for a very early pool and gas. Very unusual, don't see that too often, but Slush is of course totally baller, so he would do something like that. But if we come over here to Shethtown, USA, Sheth is actually just doing something a little more standard. Oh, look, a 14 pool, lovely, everyone's seen one of those. And here's going to come a 14 extractor. And the usual build for Zergling Baneling is to get speed here at the spawning pool first, and then to throw down a Baneling nest, preferably somewhere a little bit hidden, and then to just begin smashing his front down because you can afford it. But we're going to see Slush do something a little bit unusual this game. This is the slightly unusual version of the Baneling bust, because we're getting this pool so fast. Look, the pool's already done, we're making Zerglings already, and yet we have not made a queen, and we have not gotten Zergling speed, but alas, we are getting a Baneling nest that's so fast. I just want to re-emphasize that this is friggin' fast. Look at the food count, 13 to 15, and of course with this pool finishing, Sheth actually has the money to get a queen and Zergling, so look, already 20 to 14, that's, I don't know why I'm rounding, I could just say it. It's 19 to 14. 5 food deficit at this stage in the game is seemingly, like, gigantic. Excuse me, sorry, some of that delicious steak I had earlier this evening was just trying to let everyone know how awesome it was. Now, I've seen Sheth and Slush both do this, where they just get a defensive spine crawler because... and I will just point this out. Actually, this is super important. I don't know why I decided that I might say this. But, you know, as usual, as the Zergy, so if we just go to the Chef cam, you want to be sending your overlords in reasonable angles, and oh my goodness, we have seen there are a bunch of Zerglings coming. And Chef immediately responds by throwing down a spine crawler. It's very smart play, very, very, very smart, right? We want to have some sort of defense against Zerglings. This is a huge early rush. Chef did the typical thing, which is to not save up larva for Zerglings, instead to get the queen right away. Because theoretically, if you get like... if he is sending like 6 or 8 Zerglings at you, if you have like a queen plus 2 Zerglings, you're kind of like you're safe. So a lot of people just say, well, I don't need to make a lot of Zerglings early because I'm getting the queen anyways, so I'll just make drones instead. Completely reasonable, completely fine. And as a result, you can often force a lot of spine crawlers if you're doing what Slush does. So again, Zergling Baneling seems to be a little bit fundamental, but already we're seeing some weirdness from Slush. And it looks like still no queen. Ooh, fancy. Does he have 3 guys in the gas? I actually briefly want to check this. There's 2. Nope, just 2 in the gas. And gosh, these are such fast Banelings. Look at this. Sheth, who's getting the spine crawler about as fast as he humanly possibly could have, still is nowhere close to getting these Banelings. Nowhere close to beating these Banelings, right? Just barely getting it up in time. And I even furthermore would like to note the following. And this is something that's very, very subtle that is still really important to point out. Alright, yeah, right here when the gas guys are finished. Actually, I might back it up even more. And a lot of this backing up might seem annoying or perhaps unnecessary. But look, we just started mining the gas, right? We see 24, 52 from there. We see 44 there, so cool. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up. And remember, what did I tell you was the usual Zergling Baneling build before? It was spend your first 100 on gas, spend your next 50 on Banelings. Alright, there's the first 100 going down on the metabolic boost upgrade. Okay, we're going to wait. We're just looking at this resource in the top right, or we can look at it right here in the top left, and bam, it just now hits 50. Sheth would just be able to afford this Baneling nest right here that costs 100 minerals and 50 gas. He would just now be able to start that Baneling nest, and meanwhile, Slush's Banelings are already en route and almost finished. See how huge of a window that is for Slush? See how huge that is? Oh, that's very good. That's Very cool play. And I'm actually going to go to the income tab and note something that a lot of people will sort of neglect. People will look at this and they'll say, that is not the standard Zergling Baneling build. It is not standard to go spawning pool and Baneling this fast. Therefore, it is cheese. And I don't really know why you do that. Cheese is one of those poorly defined words, but I still want to point out that if we think of this as a long-term viable strategy, here are some of the considerations we have to make. Sure, we can suicide in here and potentially do a whole ton of damage. Oh, yes, there's the good hit on the workers, and of course, Sheth goes into Pain Town and is having to make a whole bunch more stuff. Look at the workers, 8 to 9. Having to pull back. We still have 2 spine crawlers up, though, for Sheth. So a lot of times people would see that early move by Slush, and they would go, oh, Slush is at a huge advantage. But still note, Slush does not have a queen. Slush is just starting a queen and still only has 9 drones. In fact, has pulled guys off gas to be able to sustain this. Just cannot really afford it. The queen, of course, leading out here. If the queen gets in trouble, she can fall back and has support from 2 sunks. In the meantime, Sheth just going to make a few Zerglings to help be blockers, getting some Zergling speed on his own as well. And there's the good old camel poke from the spine crawler. Taking him down, all seems well, vomiting more larvae. And interestingly enough, if we go to this resource tab, Sheth is doing pretty good, right? He's still ahead after suffering that loss, Slush. He's going to have to pull back a little bit. He's making a spine crawler himself. I would actually prefer just putting guys back in gas and getting like 1 Baneling at the ramp. Always a good defensive technique, just having like 1 or 2 Banelings behind for defense. And it looks like Slush is going to continue to try to harass, but this is always a little bit of a trade-off that you end up making. When you do some sort of very, very huge pressure like this, you're kind of forced to do damage. People tend to look at the units that they have and the capabilities of those units and say, if I'm capable of a lot of stuff, then I have therefore done a lot of stuff. Like if you get a Warp Prism and Templar and you drop somewhere and you storm and you ran his drones away a little bit, you're like, haha, I could have really screwed up his economy there. But you didn't, and you invested a whole bunch of money in this thing that honestly is initially a loss, and it kind of has to make up for its cost. Here, I'm not entirely convinced that Slush was able to make up for the early cost of getting these 2 things out. We can see how potentially that can happen. We can see very much so how effective that Baneling type stuff could be. And as usual, Sheth is just going to run in here with some Zerglings, and look, target firing the drones. I'm kind of into that. I like that. Because, of course, we have our 2 spine crawlers at home. And in the meantime, Sheth is teching up to a lair. And look at how Slush really wasn't able to do anything after this point. Now, many of you would look at this and go, oh, well, this is therefore bad. I either need to win it really hard or lose it really hard. No, you could do something like those initial 4 or 5 Banelings that were here. Just run in with those, and in the meantime, be stockpiling up some drones. I'll actually rewind that because I think that that general look seems pretty tasty to me. Imagine if this was only the Zergling, or this was the only units that Slush made all early game. Just 6 to 8 Zerglings. And the rest of the time, he was making drones. Well, these Zerglings would have been drones. These Zerglings would have been drones. These Zerglings would have been drones. Yes, that would have been another like 3, 4 drones or so. If that were the case, then look how this would have turned out. Look how this would have turned out for Slush. So he ends up getting his Banelings up. He runs them in before Sheth really has very much else to defend. And he would have dropped this worker count down to 8, and he would have been at like 13 at this point. But instead, because Slush overcommitted to it just a little bit,